On the 7th day of the virus outbreak, survival in the end of the world began to enter the first stage. Those who have exhausted their supplies began to find ways to search for food. The dormitory buildings in the school are all uniformly decorated. The balconies between each dormitory are only separated by less than 1 step, except for the first and second floors with guardrails. The others are semi-open air. It's easy to climb over. Some boys in the opposite dormitory were brave enough. They took the risk to climb over the balcony because all signals were interrupted. They returned to the primitive life. They quickly attracted the attention of people in surrounding buildings. We were no exception. We opened the curtains a little gap and observed their actions. They climbed over one balcony after another, carefully checking if there was anyone inside. If they found someone, they would skip to the next room. If there was no one in the room, they went in and rummaged through, and then carried bags and packages back. People in other buildings saw what they did, also followed suit. But it all happened in the boys' dormitory. So it seems that girls were relatively conservative. For a moment, the boys' dormitory building was like a Spider-Man party. The brave ones rummaged through the rooms with their hands. The timid ones, and were tied to the sheets by their roommates. But the horizontal dormitory space was limited, and conflicts began to intensify. Two groups of people had a dispute over supplies, and it made a lot of noise. The zombies moved towards the noise. I saw a boy trying to escape, used his roommate as a shield, and pushed him towards zombies. It was obvious, showing us human nature in the end of the world. We didn't watch anymore. We closed the curtains to block the supplies. We were all silent. After calming down, we immediately took out the remaining wooden boards from the reinforced doors and windows between our dormitory and the next one, the place where we could climb over, completely sealed. On the 15th day of the virus outbreak, we lived in our dormitory. We lived in an orderly manner. Zhao Lao was still tied up by us, and gradually got used to this life. Recently, outside, every day, people try to find supplies, and even someone rushed downstairs. I don't know where they got a car after looting the supermarket and came back safely. This operation has deeply touched the hearts of a group of people. They started to go out in groups of 3 or 2, but some people came back, but some didn't. In the zombie group wandering during the day, I saw their figures. On the 20th day of the virus outbreak, after several days of high temperatures, it turned into continuous heavy rain for several days, although the temperature dropped. But the electricity stored in solar panels was gradually depleted. We were forced to use all our daily electricity until the rain stopped. After a month of the virus outbreak, the consumption of 4 people made the boxes filled with things began to be empty. Theoretically, the remaining things are enough for us to survive for a long time. But no one can tell what will happen in the future. On the 32nd day, we were extravagant. We took turns to wipe our bodies with water, as if we were taking a shower. On the 33rd day, someone started to jump off. On the 34th day, the building next door didn't know what happened. There was a riot. Everyone in the building ran out and rushed into our buildings. There were fewer and fewer people. On the 35th day, we found a new way to communicate, the LUETOOTH connection. The reason was because Tian, while washing up on the balcony in the morning, she saw an acquaintance in the opposite dormitory, the second room on the 5th floor. On our left is Wang Jing and Zhu Shi. They waved their hands to us and drawing something. We were confused. We didn't understand. Seeing this, they went back into the room and took out 2 pieces of paper. The paper was filled with large characters, which were Lan and Ya. We suddenly understood and quickly took out our phones to search. We opened it and found that. We found that the surroundings were already densely. There were many Bluetooths, but the other names were easy to recognize. They directly wrote the floor and room number. We communicated with them via Bluetooth. Zhu Xin said there were only 3 people on their side, and the other roommates didn't believe them at that time. But the canteen didn't come back. We felt a little sad. Yeah, such words are generally not believed. Fortunately, all 4 of us were together. It was a rare encounter with old friends in a foreign land, but we invited them too. We exchanged various survival methods, and based on each other's experience, and improved our existing material usage plans. Because of the emergence of Bluetooth communication, this lifeless campus became alive again. Everyone exchanged materials with each other's Bluetooth names to exchange supplies. We also participated in it. We tried our best to give back more to others, but we still keep the principle of not showing off wealth. On the 42nd day, Zhao Lang excitedly said her boyfriend got a car. which could take us away, but he wanted our supplies. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but it made me laugh out loud. You told your boyfriend about our supplies. To your boyfriend? Zhou Lao looked at me in a daze and asked me, can't you tell him? Actually, it's okay to tell her boyfriend. Everyone has the right to choose. It's just that. If it happened to Tiantian and Wang Yue, I have nothing to say. But it happened to Zhou Lao. It's not that I deliberately targeted Zhou Lao when he was in a relationship. We didn't like his boyfriend He Lian. Not optimistic about him. This man is a playboy. When we were eating in the cafeteria, we saw him holding another woman's shoulder and was very ambiguous. We told Zhou Rao when we came back, but he seemed to be brainwashed by love. We told her. He didn't believe us, but instead believed nonsense explanations and believed them. Seeing his obsessed look, so we didn't persuade him anymore. I sighed. I solemnly said to Zhou Lao, you can go with him. We won't stop you, or we can give you supplies, but only for your own supplies. Moreover, we won't help you carry your supplies or open the door for you. You have to solve it yourself. We have no obligation, nor do we want to risk, or your love to take risks. Do you understand? But Zhou Lao nodded blankly, as if he didn't understand at all. So he turned to ask He Lian for advice. I don't know what they said to him. Zhou finally decided to go with him. I was a little helpless, seeing that he couldn't be persuaded. The next day, we took out the supplies of Mr. Zhou and packed them up, which was several large boxes. At night, He Lian came to pick him up and asked him to put the supplies down the window with a rope. They found a drone and hung a small speaker that looked small, a small speaker that was not big but loud. They used the sound to lure away the zombies around our building. Then they drove the car downstairs. They repeated the same trick to lure away the zombies attracted by the car. After confirming safety, they got out of the car to carry the supplies. This series of operations really surprised me. I didn't expect that He Lian looked like a jerk, but he has a good brain. After moving the things, Zhou Lao was in trouble. He didn't dare to go downstairs. After all, no one can confirm whether the zombies in the corridor had run away. He Lian didn't want to go into the building to pick him up. He asked Zhou Lao to climb down the rope by himself. Zhou Lao cried and said he didn't dare. This back and forth, as if giving He Lian an excuse. He immediately gave Zhou Rao a cold shoulder, saying he could go or not, taking his supplies, and got on the car with his brothers, and left without looking back, leaving Zhou Rao standing there dumbfounded. He looked at us helplessly. We didn't coax him as he wished, or persuaded him, but instead, we showed a cold and indifferent attitude. Zhou Lao panicked. In fact, he wasn't a bad person. We are all students lacking social experience. He panicked for a moment. He realized himself, without those supplies, we wouldn't have kept him. What's rare is that how much we persuaded him. We couldn't persuade him. The love that ended without a hitch in the end times, but it woke him up. He held back his tears, and his eyes turned red under our ruthless gaze. He suddenly scratched his hand, and then seemed to have made a decision, pointing to Qiang. I'll go next door. There seems to be no one there. Can you give me some water and food? Just a little. Seeing his little wife-like appearance, I finally softened my heart. I sighed. I stepped forward and patted his back. He looked at me in a daze for a while, and then looked like a child who was wrong outside, like a child who suddenly sees his relatives. The tears that could have been held back, and suddenly burst into tears and buried his head on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Sheng Sheng. I'm sorry. Those were the materials you worked so hard to save. I pulled him out of my arms with a smile. Okay, stop crying. It's not a big deal. Tiantian and Wang Yue also came over and gently wiped his tears. Okay, just know that He Lian is not a good person. What about the supplies? Zhou Lao asked in sobs, his normal question, but made the three of us burst into laughter. Of course, we held it in and didn't dare to be too presumptuous for fear of attracting zombies. I touched Zhou Lao's head. I said I had already been on guard against him. The box was filled with garbage. Why did I use tape to seal it? Zhou Lao was confused, and then realized, and burst into laughter. The smile. It was as charming as when he first moved into the dorm. I still remember that day. He smiled and said hello to us. I'm Zhou Lao. From now on, we would be sisters in the dormitory, in the dark of the end of the world. He came back again. He hugged us three tightly. He Lian's incident was like a button. which turned off all the troubles after the apocalypse. We didn't lock Joe Rao anymore, but he offered to be locked up. We locked him up, saying that, afraid of his virgin syndrome. We didn't refuse. We really locked him up again, and then we saw his confused expression. We were overjoyed. Our lives are going well and organized. We can also play poker in our leisure time and chat with Suchi and others. The students in our school are about 50,000 in the dormitory buildings in the northern area. There are more than 20. I am not sure how many people are still alive, but I know everyone is trying to survive. I often see some people imitate Helion and others using drones to lure away zombies and then jump down from the balcony to search for things in the supermarket and canteen. It's the drone that looks the same every time. They already have the demeanors of old employees. According to Zhu Qi, they also thought of using drones to clear a building, but there were too many zombies in the building, so they gave up. Time passed day by day. Fewer and fewer people survived, except for those who died at the beginning. Most of the rest jumped off buildings. The atmosphere was too heavy. We stopped looking out. So November came. The weather became increasingly abnormal. The temperature difference between day and night is huge. Except me, the other three all caught a cold. I frowned a little uneasily. I don't know why. I've been feeling flustered recently. I felt like something was going to happen. The hot water bag is ready. I agreed. I put them in a quilt for each of them. I planned to play some mobile games. At this time, Zushi's Bluetooth showed a connection. After I agreed, he sent me a picture of my myopia image, which said to turn on mobile data to check GF's messages. My heart sank. I quickly turned on the network that I had turned off for months, but it still didn't respond. Just as I was puzzled, a message popped up on my phone. I really received a text message. It was GF's number. I was a little overjoyed, but after seeing the text, I felt cold again. The message roughly said that, due to abnormal weather, the temperature is abnormal, and a cold wave is coming. Under the influence of the cold wave, the zombies will move south, forming a zombie tide. The country has now set up a safe base in the South China Sea. If any survivors see this message, please migrate to the South China Sea immediately. The message. It also marks some areas that are being rescued. I checked the area for a long time. I couldn't find the city where my school is located. I woke up my roommate and discussed it with them. Actually, when I first saw this message, I was a little confused. We were safely in our dormitory. When the zombie tide comes, we won't go out. Just lie down. Why go out and take risks? But then I received a video from my girlfriend. In the video, there were hordes of zombies, piled up like waves, and slowly got higher and higher, forming a huge monster covered in corpses. Every step it takes, shaking thousands of miles, making people shudder, which reminded me of, after the movie Day Tomorrow, the wall in Jerusalem. I don't know how GEF was able to capture this scene. According to the time given by GEF, at least to us, there are less than 10 days left, so we had to leave. That night, we discussed with Zushi and the others. The opinions discussed by everyone decided that more people, more power. Try to contact as many survivors as possible and go together as we thought. The only survivors we could contact were only more than 10, but the only 4 who chose to go with us. Only 4, 3 men and 1 woman. We had all the people. How could 11 of us go to the South China Sea? Became the biggest problem. Just when we were worried, Zushi reassured us. He asked us to pack our things and wait for him tomorrow morning. Others were a little surprised. His exaggeration, but as those who had been taken care of by them. My roommate and I chose to believe him. We didn't sleep much that night. None of us expected that, after nearly 5 months of ease, we would be forced to leave this comfortable place. The next day, the familiar old employee unmanned aerial vehicle appeared with his little horn. We quickly moved the boxes downstairs with ropes. Before we finished, a school bus drove along the road beside us. Since the zombie outbreak, I have never been so speechless. The way we all looked at Zushi, just like him, was like a player who spent money on games. When the zombies were attracted away again, Zushi, Wang Jin, and their other roommates, and Song Deu got off. They locked the doors of nearby dormitory buildings, locked from outside, to prevent the zombies in the building from escaping. Seeing this, the other 3 boys also started too, tied into ropes with sheets. and slid down. Fortunately, the floors they lived on were not high. One of the slightly fat boys. Halfway down, the sheet almost tore. While they were carrying things into the car, we also started to slide down from the balcony. But what surprised me was that Joe Rao, who cried and refused to come down last time, this time he managed to slide down despite his fear. After he came down, I comforted him and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. I suddenly felt that his look of wanting to cry, but held back, was rather cute. After moving things, we all got on the car. The moment the door was closed, we all looked at the former dormitory. We didn't know when we can come back. After feeling emotional, I suddenly had a thought. I thought of something. Zushi, do you have a driver's license? Everyone was stunned for a moment and looked at Zushi. He was also stunned. Yes, but it's a C1. Just bear with it. I seem to be the only one who could drive. How did you get this car? It was the end of the term, and we were about to leave. Our class was going to go camping. We borrowed it from the student council. Then the zombie outbreak happened, and there was nowhere to return it. I don't know if it's okay or not. A group of us just embarked on the road